Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining and welcome back to Wall Street Bullion. Our guest today is a good friend, the professor of chemistry at Cornell University, Dave Collum. Welcome back, sir.
Glad to be back.
You
We
know,
had
it,
a few miscues along the way, and we finally made it back.
yeah, finally got you back on. Every time you're on, it's a breath of fresh air. We always get into like some really, really great topics, whether it's geopolitical, in the deep state, silver, gold.
Right.
But I wanted to get you on to talk about, let's talk about silver and gold. What are your thoughts right now? A lot of people are saying it's in consolidation right now, gold, and it's moving a bit sideways. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I have no idea about gold. I mean, it certainly had a good run, so you can imagine some people saying it's time to capture some of that. So, after those runs, they digest the gains is the phrase that people use. So, but in secular bull markets, which we might be in, there's always going to be pauses, and the guys who really get rich are the ones who share one common denominator, and that is they don't sell.
Yeah.
So, and if it were at the end of one, the guys who got creamed by staying on too long didn't sell either. So until it's in the rearview mirror, you don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's concerning you right now, whether it's geopolitical or the markets, or even just looking at the administration, the left, the right, what's concerning you right now? What do you have your eye on?
Well, one thing that bothers the hell out of me is the markets seem to be completely impervious um, to 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 sort of input. So there seems to be a complete lack of price discovery. The markets seem to be just relentless, fearless, um, no sense of caution, and as a consequence, I think we're going to have a big problem at some point. I think these are stupid markets at this point. I say the markets are forward-looking. I go, well, so where were they looking in 2000? Where were they looking, in
Yeah.
1929? I don't think they're that forward-looking, right? Um, they're always, seen views are always best from the top. So right when euphoria reaches a maximum, the reason for it goes to zero.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, right now, what do you think about the current administration? What do you think about Trump? What do you think is he doing good? Is he doing bad? What do you like, dislike about it right now?
Well, he's done some good stuff. I mean, he first of all, he came off like a German Panzer division in those first couple of months, right? I mean, he just took off so fast. I don't think the left was ready for him to do that. And then they started putting up a counterattack, and they started regrouping and trying to throw court cases at him and stuff like that. Um, there's, I think he probably iced the cake on the whole woke. I think we had a blow off top. I actually think the woke movement peaked as we watched the Summer Olympics and watched a couple of guys beating the living piss out of women in boxing. I think
Right.
I think the absurdity was probably underscored for a billion people worldwide. Um, I've been thinking about that even, where I'm thinking, okay, so now you can push back. There are still transgenders doing women's sports. I'm starting to get a little frustrated because of the women, the athletes, the coaches, the former athletes, women in positions of power. If they don't fight it, why should I fight it, right? And
Yeah.
so the ball's in their court, and if they want to just let guys go in and kick the crap out of the women for in sports that the women fought hard to get, um, good riddance. I'm getting a little tired of the fact that there's still too many who are mute. So if you're a former female athlete and you're not standing up to this, you're a coward, in my opinion. And I think entire teams should boycott sports and just stand firm and say we're not playing now, and let the headlines roll. So there's that. But I think we're basically putting out brush fires at this point. I think the stupidity of transgenders in sports is going to eventually show through. Um, Trump, curiously, bit of a mixed bag. His is a tax on universities are on the one hand, in some sense, a breath of fresh air. I think universities had gotten bloated and arrogant and
Right.
super woke and super lefty and super entitled.
Right.
And and it's not everywhere. It's not every school. It's not, that's a kind of a sweeping statement. But I think we needed a fastball thrown past our chin to say, oh, by the way, you're being paid a lot of money to teach kids shit. So don't forget that part.
Yeah.
Um, so when the problems with Harvard and Cornell and places like that first showed up, I thought, okay, Trump's just basically saying, get your shit together.
Right.
There's a new sheriff in town, right? Um, when he starts pushing universities for their anti-Semitism, that troubles me because I just don't think it's that bad. I'm sure you can find a case where someone got their feelings hurt and stuff like that, and someone feels bad. But like, for example, when Ukraine was attacked by Russia, Russian students took a lot of guff. Russian violinists were kicked out of orchestras and stuff like that. And did anyone speak up for them? No.
No.
And so then the question is I don't see any discussion about the pros and cons of supporting Israel, and we
Right.
should be having that discussion. I don't forget about what the answer is. We should be having the discussion, and I think they're using universities as whipping boys um, to let APEC, the Israel lobby, flex its muscles and basically say, um, if you even blink, you're going to pay. And I don't like that, actually. I have kind of a gag order in Israel up until now, but I'm starting to lose my shit on this point. And so I think you should be able to oppose Israel without being called an anti-Semite, just like I oppose the United States foreign policy without being, anti-American.
Right.
And I think that APAC should not be telling us what to do. I don't think we should be sort of supporting Israel because of powerful lobbies and stuff like that. And it does look like a Holocaust to me. I mean, it really just looks like they've gone too far.
There's about $15 trillion worth of physical gold in the world sitting there costing money rather than being used. Is just absolutely insane. Monetary Metals is bringing gold back into the financial world, putting gold to productive use right now. The problem with gold, of course, in physical form is that it's heavy, it's cumbersome, it's not particularly easy to ship, and it costs money to store in a protected manner. This platform Monetary Metals created is a proven concept and allows gold to be put to productive use, so that instead of sitting there costing you money, it's actually in use earning you money.
Learn how you can earn 2 to 5% in our leasing program and how accredited investors can earn up to 12% on silver paid in silver. This advertisement is not investment or financial advice. Minimum investment applies.
So
Do you think that there's such a grip in the higher echelons of the Congress and politics and banking, and
mhm.
the system is so
Yeah.
tightly knit that, like what you said, they can flex their muscles, and if you blink, then there's going to be issues. Do you think even the likes of Trump knows this and doesn't want to disturb them or fight back against them?
Well, it'll look that way. And it shows you how powerful it is because it takes a lot to get Trump to behave himself, right? And at the same time, then recently, all of a sudden, he's sitting there having chats with Saudi Arabia and Iran, and not including Netanyahu. So it's conceivable this is just that multi-layered onion where we're not following Trump's plan carefully enough to understand it. We can't grasp what he's up to. I'm hoping that's the case. Um, and he's now pushing back against Netanyahu, saying, no, don't go bombing Iran. And since if he does, he'll be bombing them with our weapons. That's a problem.
Right.
I'm not willing to suffer through World War III because Israel wants to bomb Iran. So I was told by an intelligence officer from a foreign country, I don't want to be more precise, just risk, that he said you can't understand geopolitics if you don't understand Israel. And so he told me to read Mearsheimer's and Walt's book called the Israel Lobby, and it's these guys have balls the size of cantaloupes. They hammer the Israel Lobby,
Really?
and it's from 20 years ago. So it's much worse now. So yeah, I'm stepping out on a limb, but if someone wants to call me an anti-Semite, that's fine.
Yeah, no, we're
It'll either be a sticks and stones won't break my bones, or I'll knock your teeth out. I'm not sure which one it is.
now, now, as much as power that Israel has over the American Congress and the
Hmm.
American president and the banking system, and just like what we were speaking before, how much do you think secret societies play a part in it? Where, if it's not Israel that's controlling some of these policy makers, Congress members, Senate members, but then secret societies who are influencing the American system that people can't even see. Like, what are your thoughts on the secret societies in America?
Well, they exist. They're very hard to understand when you read about them. So you go down what you think is a rabbit hole, and you end up in Göbekli Tepe, is what I've been saying lately, where you discover this entire civilization down there. What you will find is if you dig into these secret societies and their control and politics, what you discover is stuff that is so outlandish that unless you've been sort of working around the perimeter pretty steadily, you will not be able to process it. So you
Right.
discover satanic cults that are backed by the CIA and crap like that, and you go, my brain just isn't processing this. It
Mm.
just Most people would hit that and just back out the doors. Like they walked in the house, and there's voices in the attic and blood dripping on the walls. They'd get out of there, right?
Yeah.
But I do believe it's real. I believe it's real hard to get your arms around. Just today, I was reading about the Finders, which is a satanic cult with strong CIA ties.
Jeez.
And what happens is it gets discovered, and next thing you know, the feds come in and shut down the investigation. It just goes away. And
Wow.
so then the question is, this has been dominating a lot of podcasts I've been doing. So, they estimate, 500,000 kids came across the border. Official estimates from the FBI or, international, organizations dealing with missing and abused children, things like that, that there's, a million plus kids. It could be 10 million, right? I mean, they're very saggy numbers.
Right.
They're being trafficked, yet no one ever gets arrested for receiving them.
No, they just tell you
And
about them in the statistics, but it
and
doesn't
they
go any
occasionally
further.
save some kids. Occasionally they save them. That's always a feel good story. And occasionally they catch traffickers who look like some gnarly bastard from South America or something. But these kids don't come cheap. You can actually read about and find out where you can buy them. You can actually figure out where you can buy these kids.
Jeez.
And the going price is not small, and as a consequence, they're not selling them to guys driving around in 20-year-old vans with free candy painted on the side.
Right.
And they appear. I was on a Zoom call with a couple famous survivors of trafficking, and one of them's Kathy O'Brien, who's one of the two most famous of them all. And she talks about being raped by Gerald Ford, and another
Wow.
one was Juliet Engel, and she talks about how she was basically trained to do espionage, and they all say they're trained to kill. So by the time they're done being kids, they've had their personalities fragmented and then reassembled. They first break the kids using horrific methods, things that certainly way past Geneva Convention level.
Right.
And then they sort of reassemble them. They train them like a dog, and they find out what these kids seem to be good for. And some of them they say, oh, that kid will make a great assassin. And this kid, this chick, she'll just be, we'll shove her into the sex trade. And so it's like, working dogs have different personalities, and they give them different customers depending on what their person. So a blobby lab is very different than an energetic golden retriever. And
Right.
and so you read about this stuff, and again, your mind just goes, "How is this possible?" But it's true, I believe.
Hello, my fellow silver and gold stacker. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching the channel. Subscribe, please like the video, and also hit the notification bell. Keep stacking.
I
Well,
also believe it's almost impossible to fully understand.
oh yeah, for sure. And I feel like there's a part of me that believes that once you get to a certain level in government or politics, if you're part of these secret societies, you're going to have to be blackmailed in one way or another, doing these types of acts so that you can't either leave the society or you're bound for them for influence or whichever the case is.
Well, they'll even, this was horrifying, but I was on a Zoom call with a couple of generals, and they mentioned a guy named Janda, who I happen to be familiar with. He's a former undersecretary of something in Bush administration. He's an orthopedic surgeon. And he had told about how he was warned not to go to parties because he'll wake up in the morning drugged out with a Polaroid clipped to his shirt with him and a 5-year-old.
Jeez.
And so you don't even have to corrupt them. You simply have to slip a drug into their cocktail.
That's crazy.
And therefore it means that they can get anybody, because if you're in a prominent position and all of a sudden there's Polaroids with you and a 5-year-old, it just doesn't matter how much you think it's awful. You don't your choices have now been totally eliminated. You
Oh
don't
yeah,
you don't have
they'll
anything.
expose you. They'll, there's so many things that they can do with that footage or
Mhm.
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that was scary. And so I asked the guys if Jander was credible. He's the guy who said that. And the two generals said, "Oh, yeah, he's very credible." I said, "Okay," because he had said that. He's the guy who said that. So you start cross-referencing and stuff, trying to understand who's lying. And yeah, I finished a book on David Berkowitz that claimed that he was part of a satanic cult. He was just one of many shooters and the Son of Sam killings. And it was part of a network that was spanned the country in strongholds in various cities around the country. And as it sort of unraveled, people who were at risk of getting caught and being in the way would mysteriously die. So they would slowly but surely pick off anyone who was being found out, because they had to protect the network ahead of everything.
Right.
Connects up with Scientology. Boy, talk about a bad religion. I'll take Islam and everything else under the sun over Scientology. Scientology is truly awful. I mean, it's
Oh
truly
yeah.
astonishingly awful.
Oh yeah, I've heard the stories with Miscavige and with everything with his
Miscavige, that's right.
yeah,
You're a
yeah.
sick bastard when you know
Yeah.
that guy's name.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he's a psycho. And if the Scientologists decide they're going to make your life miserable, they will make your life miserable,
Oh, 100%. Even his
or
own.
kill you, or kill you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, have you seen the podcast with his father, with his dad exposing with Miscavige? He used to be
Well,
in
there's various guys who are very high up the food chain who left,
right.
and then their lives were made truly miserable.
Oh yeah, Leah Remini and a bunch of other ones.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's crazy. I wanted to ask you too, one of our last, as we're wrapping up this episode, but this is a question that just came to mind. How do you think the United States would look today if John F. Kennedy was successful at dismantling the CIA, and in his last speech he was talking about secret societies and how they control every aspect of government. How would America today look if he was successful at dismantling the CIA, FBI, central banks, and he wasn't assassinated?
Well, I think that's a counterfactual of a higher order, because I think that would never have happened.
Right.
That's in some sense like, what if, let's say, Solzhenitsyn. That's like saying, what if Solzhenitsyn, had dismantled the Soviet Union, right? I mean,
Right.
it's at that sort of level. The CIA was founded in the 40s, and it was comprised of a bunch of mobsters. Its very origin is mobsters. They use mobsters to do stuff, and then they assembled the CIA, and it goes from there, right? And so I
Wow.
think the CIA is basically a rogue crime syndicate that in theory works for the United States, but I think it's a kind of a sleeper cell model, and I think they do things for the United States, but I also think they absolutely, above all else, do things for the CIA.
Yeah. They don't
So
they don't do it for the American people. They're there for
no, and
yeah.
they have all these black ops. They have all these, if they're supporting satanic cults,
Yeah.
they're not working for me,
No,
right? They're
absolutely not.
right.
Yeah. Well, Dave, I want to thank you so much for coming down to speaking to the whole community. Like I said in the beginning of the episode, it's a breath of fresh air when you come on, and it's such a huge pleasure. And as everything develops in the world, and markets develop and everything else, would really love to have you back on.
Well, if that's fresh air, you need to get out more.
You know what? I actually do.
So I'm still wondering about Trump. I never quite answered that, but
Oh
there's
yeah,
things
yeah,
he's doing that don't make sense to me.
yeah.
Um, and so I can't quite tell. When Bongino and Patel said that Epstein killed himself, I don't believe it.
I was gonna ask you, yeah, did you see that clip of him saying he absolutely hung himself?
Yeah, I absolutely do not believe it.
And he didn't
And
believe that before, but Patel
well,
before.
well, he didn't say he believed it before. He just
Right.
said he believed it, but at no point do we know that he believed it.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So those guys look like a couple of guys who are blinking out Morse code with their eyelids saying "Save me." Right. They didn't look very. And they said they're going to come up with videos, and they won't. Just like they came up with Epstein files that were
Yeah.
publicly available, except they were redacted, unlike the publicly available ones. Right.
Everything was blacked out.
So Bondi
Everything.
blew out her reputation completely in that one boneheaded move.
Yeah, yeah. She
She
said, "Oh,
totally boned it.
yeah, we're releasing all the Epstein files and the names, and then the list came
And it's
out.
horrible, and there
Yeah,
wasn't nothing.
there
I
was
mean,
nothing. It was all blacked out.
Nick Bryan had more than that back in 2015.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I'm still waiting to see, has Doge saved us money? We don't know, but not as much as we would hope, I guess. I'm glad they're revealing the corruption, but at the end, a year from now, we're going to have to look back and ask, how did they do? Right? What actually got done?
Well,
Like
yeah,
Trump for 4 years said he's going to build a wall. Did he build it? No.
yeah,
Right. And so a year from now, I'm going to look back and say, did he? I think it's possible they're actually trying to destroy academia, which is kind of tear it down and rebuild it. And
wow,
it's a brutal approach, but it looks less like a sort of a shock therapy and more because there really are disruptions inside academia that are pretty profound.
wow,
Um, at the ground level, I can see them on a daily basis. I'm not whining. That's not me. But
right,
I am saying that if you think that his threats against Harvard and Cornell are just blather, you're not seeing the complete shutdown of the entire system that's occurring. And
right,
maybe it's the right thing. I'm maybe shutting it down and suffocating it. Put a pillow over its face and then start over again. Maybe
right.
that's what has to be done. But boy, that's like chemotherapy, bringing the patient near death to kill the tumor.
Yeah, no, it's brutal.
Right.
Well, Dave, I want to thank you so much for coming down. And like I said, I'd love to have you back on in the future as new things develop in the news. And yeah, just having a conversation. I really want to thank you for coming down, Dave.
Thanks for inviting me.
Talk
Send
to
me
you.
a link.
Awesome. I will. Talk to you soon.
Adios.